Hey, good evening. This is one of a series of just experimental small live streams, largely for myself to teach myself how these things work, but also so that I can share a little bit of my knowledge, something I already know, something I think might be helpful. A bit about me. So I'm Amy. I'm a Notion consultant. So I help small teams and businesses and individuals as well to use Notion. Like, I've taken all of the exams and certifications and things, and I have a lot of years of experience. So it gives me a bigger insight into some of the more niche features of Notion. I'm also a Notion ambassador. So I help to host events in London and kind of the south of England. So I feel like I'm a good person to talk about this kind of stuff. And today it's going to be a bit of a selfish experiment, but I'm also aware that term has just started for university students here in the UK, or it's close enough to starting. So I thought as an experiment, I would go back to my first year at uni, going back to what it was like for me starting and what I would have done if I had access to Notion. So when I was at uni, Notion wasn't a thing. I don't think it was even an idea. So what was I using? I think I used a mixture of OneNote. I might have tried Evernote. A lot of my stuff was just handwritten notes. I'd keep a big stack of lined paper in my bedroom, which was chaos when it came to revision, but it was nice to be able to handwrite notes. But I do wonder how I would have tackled it if I had Notion. So that's what I'm going to try this evening. I'm going to go through some features that I've used a lot, but I see it every now and then on other templates, but it's, I think it's kind of the core of Notion is being able to link different things together. So I'm going to go through how I would set that up. And then also coordinating with Notion Calendar, which is relatively new. It came out earlier this year, and it's, I use it every day now at this point. It's embedded in my workflow, but I'm going to go through how I would set that up if I was a student coming in as well. So yeah, I guess we can start if I can get everything connected. So I think when I try and tackle these sorts of build problems, I start by going back to the basics. So if I get okay, so thinking about what kinds of stuff I would have taken notes on or wanted to have a brain for in Notion as a student. So first off would be a timetable. So I had this is a weird travel back through time, but I think I just had every term they would give us kind of like an A4 printed, like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, etc. And then these blocks of when your classes were, what building they were in, usually the lecturer, their email, but it would just be on paper. I don't remember putting it in any kind of calendar, any kind of app. Then we also had, off of the back of that, we had, if I can spell it, courses. So these were kind of self-contained things that you could focus on one at a time. So they'd normally be like on a topic. They would have timetabled sessions every term. They'd maybe have, like the contact details for the professor. You'd have lecture slides. And then seminars. And then you would also have sometimes an exams. These were dates of particularly important events. And then I suppose off of the back of that, we'd have events which were exams, coursework, deadlines. So I guess actually that coursework would fall into, each course would have its own coursework. But then these two things also carried, this is starting to get a little messy, but these two things, exams and coursework, would also have grades associated with them. And they were always at 100. And then these had, and I'm not going to be able to remember it, I probably won't include it in this template today, but it had some kind of weighting on your overall. So at my uni, and I checked this earlier, so I went to Warwick, and we had weightings depending on what year you were in. So year 1 would be, I think it was 10%, year 2 would count for 30% of your overall grade, and then year 3 would count for 60%. And then within each of these years, you'd have your courses, and then each course would be split into a particular percentage of like coursework and exam. I'm going to see if I can replicate this, because this is something I haven't really seen that much on existing downloadable templates, and I think it'd be helpful to be able to build that yourself. So this is kind of the meat of what I'm going to go into today. I'm sure I've missed like a couple of other things, which I guess if I were a student I would be adding in over time. But let's treat this as if I'm approaching it as the first day. You know, I've got my little paper timetable, I've got all of the courses I know that I've signed up for, so I know things like the professor's contact details, I know what exams are coming up in this term, I know coursework deadlines, all that kind of thing. So let's start building. So first off, I think I will start by building out the core databases. Actually, I'll just cover this quick. So in Notion, one mistake I see a lot of people making is they will have like an overall master page, and then within this they will make a bunch of smaller pages for stuff. So like they'll have a page for this course and a page for this exam, and that's fine to be able to, you know, reference an individual page. But then what if you want to start linking these two things together? You can't really do that if they're individual pages. So I think fundamentally building it this way is great for referencing notes, but if you're trying to build a larger thing where things are all talking to each other, being clever about it, this doesn't really work long term. One thing I always suggest to people is to have kind of like a central collection of databases. So in this case, I'm going to try building one for like courses, dates, maybe lectures, etc. And then from here, you will be able to pull these details into multiple pages. So let's say you had like a dashboard, you had like a, I don't know, something else. And or let's say you had a specific page for this unit, and you wanted to pull from the same source of information. This is great because if there was an update to the date for this lecture, or if an exam got pushed backwards or something, you would be able to update it in this one place and it would update everywhere else. Whereas here, if you updated it in one spot, then it wouldn't necessarily feed into all the other places you would need it to show. So that's what I'm going to start doing when I build out this database, this template here. If I can find my mouse. There we go. So looking back, I was saying I wanted a database to contain all of the different courses I'll be taking. So I will set this as a table. I'll come back to this in a second. Let's create another one for a timetable. And then, I'm trying to think about this again. So I said on my diagram, I wanted one for a timetable and then one for dates. But if I combine them all together, what would that do? Actually, let's step back. Let's start filling in courses just because this one feels a bit more obvious to me. So if I can find it. I was looking at the old module catalogue for my university, and you can see here they have all the different computer science modules that are available. They've got the code, they've got the title. Click in and see the module leader. I can see its credit value, which I can't remember enough to try and think about what that means. I think it was that in a term you got a set number of credits and you had to take within, you know, between 30 and 45 or something. On here it's giving me details about how this course is marked. So it's got a mixture of lab sessions, an overall assignment, and then an exam. Study time. Okay. And then a description of it. So let's start by using this one as an example. So CS126 design of information. 126, and then this can be course ID, name, design of information structures. And I don't think today I'm going to fill out every single thing. I'm just going to treat this as if I was in year one. But you could say year 1, 2, 3, and I'll show you how I will use this later. But for now, actually, let's make them all grey. So I've assigned this as year 1. Let's try and think of what else we'd want to do here. Department, we know what department it would be. Credit value, let's put that in as well. So why not? Okay, so for a... Let me go back and have a look at it again. Assessment group. So let's have another think about this. So within a course, why can't I write that word? Within a course, you will have ways of assessing, and they will have dates, types, weights of the grade. Then they don't necessarily have dates. Or you don't know the dates up front. I imagine this depends on what day the term starts. So let's say for now they have weights. Okay, so then it makes sense to have timetable and then pages. I don't know what you'd want to call this, or what I would want. I'll just call it assessment for now. Then in here you can link. No, let's go one step at a time. So let's build up the one for CS126. Let's say, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 lab sessions. 5 lab sessions. 1 programming assignment, and then 1 in-person examination. So then we'll call this type lab session in-person exam. And I know I've just written it down, but I've already forgotten. Programming assignment, there we go. Programming assignment. So you have lab session 1, lab session 3. And then these are all lab sessions. So the reason I'm building, I kind of skipped over it, but the reason I'm building assessment out in its own separate page rather than putting it underneath courses is that thing I explained before, to be able to connect things to different places. So courses here, this is kind of like a reference. It's where I will be able to go to find everything on this particular course. Whereas assessments, I'm treating them as if these are all of the things I will be marked on over the course of the year. And I, at some point, would want to be able to see all of my grades in one place. So that's why I'm separating them. And then timetable, I haven't built out yet, but because this will be a mix of dates that are both mandatory, like they're like lectures, there'll be seminars, and then I can also, and I'll cross that bridge when I get to it, feed in the dates for assessment. So hopefully they will all appear in my calendar at the same time. So, not that one. Assessment here, so lab session 4, 5, 1, 1. So then now what I can do is I can link these rather than creating a new column and labeling them all with CS126. I can go to relations. So a relation just connects two databases together. It's at its core not more complicated than that. So I will link to courses. What I can do is I can either have this as a one-way relationship, so I can say within assessment I'll be able to access courses, but then I can't from courses go and see all of the required assessments. But I think it would be helpful to be able to see assessments on the courses. So I will also show it on courses. So you see there's a two-way relationship, and I will call this assessments. I will call this course, and I will limit this to 1. So what I'm saying there is that for this lab session, it will only ever count towards one course. So I'm going to limit the number of courses it can link to in here, just for simplicity. But courses can link to multiple assessments, and we'll see that in a bit. So that's why I've left that there. Assessment, I'll rename this assessments. And then on course, I will link to CS126. Can I do this here? I can. So now when I go back to my course here, yeah, I can see all of the assessments there. One thing I can do to tidy it up, and I will do this as I go along, just because I like doing this, is to swap out the default icon for something a little bit more indicative. I'm going to use the apple. I'm not going to explain. And then, yeah, I don't know. Let's just do the bowling pin. Name, I can probably have like, I don't know. I'm getting distracted. Let's just put an anchor for now. Normally you would take your time and you would think of what icon would best fit each of these, but I don't need to explain myself. And then credit value, is there one for point? That'll do. Okay. So now I have a basic structure for the course, and I've been able to connect it to my assessments here. Let's just put a bit more detail in assessments. So this is the first year. So let's assume that I know, now that I've got my timetable, when each of these things is going to happen. So let's connect it to a date value. And then let's just leave that a date actually. And then to each of these, let's assign it, what did it say here? 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So this is week 1, 2, 3, and they'll meet on Thursday. So 4, 5, 6. This is all completely hypothetical, but you get the point. Then programming assignment, its due date, let's say you have until the end of November. And then exam, in-person exam, that can be, I don't know, you have Christmas to revise. Okay, so for each thing we now have a date associated with it. Oh, I forgot weighting actually. And then for each of these it was 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 40, 50. Let's just check. Yep, great. Then for now, let's put in grade. And let's assume for this that all the grades are going to be out of 100. So then, okay, great. I'll figure out how to do that in a bit. What I'm thinking of at the moment is, so typically what happens when you're trying to figure out your overall grade is that you will use the grade that you got, calculate it in proportion to its weighting, and then come out with a number at the end. But I don't feel ready for that yet, so let's leave that for a bit. Okay, so in summary, what we've got so far is we've got 3 different database sources. We were talking before about when you're creating structures in Notion, it's typically good practice to put them all in some sort of central database so you can pull them into various pages. And then that's what these 3 are here. And then I've populated the assessments a little bit. This shouldn't have been like too much. There shouldn't have been too much new in here. Maybe role relations, that might have been the new thing. But you can see it's not too scary. It's just referencing something else that already exists. One fun thing on relations actually. I'll show you while I'm here. So if I can figure out how to do this. Let's say you wanted to pull up, while you're in this view, you wanted to be able to see the dates that each of these were due. So what you can do is you can go into here, into linked pages, and show date. And it will pull up their due dates on here, which I think is quite handy. Later on, maybe I will come back and tidy this up a little bit further, but for now I'm okay with this. Is there any way to... No. Okay, so next, what I would like to do is I would like to have a view of these assessment deadlines in Notion Calendar. So if you haven't seen Notion Calendar before, it looks a bit like this. I unfortunately can't zoom in, but if you use any other calendar app, this should be quite familiar to you. You've got your timetable-y bit in the middle, your summary view on the right, and then your connected accounts on the left. So what I want to do is I've hidden most of the events that would normally be on here just so I have a clean slate, but I want to be able to bring in the dates that are on here into Notion Calendar. So alongside all of my other calendar events, I will be able to see at the top, oh, such and such report due. So the way I will do that is in Notion Calendar, you can go into Add Notion Database, and I didn't account for this. So what you need to do, and you can see it says it here, databases with a calendar or timeline view in Notion appear here. So you won't be able to link every single database, but you can link ones that have a calendar view. But that doesn't exist in Notion at the moment for assessments, so we can do that now. What I will do is I will create a new calendar view. And it's already sorted them by the date here. But if you had multiple dates, say you had like a date due and then date started, you'd be able to toggle between those two dates here. But it's automatically selected the only one we had. Another thing... No, not another thing. Now that I have a calendar view for this database, I can open it in Calendar and it will appear here. So, I mean, that was so quick I didn't really get to explain it, but on the left in Notion Calendar, as well as your default like Gmail, whatever calendar account you connect to it, you will be able to see for each Notion workspace you have any connected databases. So let's go to one of the days where assessments was set. I set it for Tuesdays, didn't I? Thursdays. So you can see here now it's populated the calendar with these events. I'm sorry, it's so zoomed out. But yeah, you can see that these events are now linked in Calendar. So I might have one here for, you know, whatever event is on, but then it's embedded within it, links to pages that I can open in Notion, which is very handy. So that's that. What else did I want to do? Seminars and lectures. Okay, so we have the assessments, which are kind of simple date deadlines. They'll have a grade, but we also want to be able to track in the Notion Calendar our other more normal events. So things like lectures. And to do that, we can do this one of two ways. The first is we can just add them in through our calendar account. No, I'll start with the other way first. So the first way is we can create individual lecture sessions. So this would be if you were going to a lecture and you were going there to take notes this is where I would keep my student notes. So let's say I was going to a lecture tomorrow. And let's use the relation thing we did before to link it all back to courses. I won't show it on courses for now. Limit it to 1. I can't remember which icon I used. I think it was the bowling ball. Then here, let's tag it as and then let's also put in seminar, but keep it as a lecture. Link it back to that course. So then I would be able to say, what was the course called again? Design of information structures. I should probably bring that in here. Structures. Yes. No? Fine. So yeah, let's say I had gone to a lecture and I just created a new notes and type out my notes. Over time, this will be built out into a list of all the notes I'd taken throughout the term, categorized by the course that they are linked to. Another thing I can do here is add the date. Let's go a step further. So rather than manually adding the date every time, I can have it created automatically for me by going to created time and then just setting date. And then because I'm British, I can do day, month, year, though I think most people have it that way around anyway. Then that's okay. So then as I create new notes, it will automatically, if I'm assuming I'm creating them on the day that I'm at that lecture, it will assign this date to it. Then delete. But then it's a bit of a faff to come into here and go to timetable and then to create a new note in here. One shortcut you can do in Notion is you can use buttons. Where's a good place to put a button? So actually, before I jump into buttons, I'm first going to tidy this page up a little bit. So this is the page that I would choose to have open every time I open Notion. So what I would want to see here is I'd probably want to see the timetable of things that I have coming up for this week. So let's do that using a linked view of database and link to timetable and have that as a. And this is the thing about Notion, is that it's so easy to pick stuff up and move it around and link it to other places that even if I make this now and then I decide that I don't like it, I can change it in, I can just change it whenever I want to. But for now, I'm going to leave it like this. So, show weekends. I won't do that because I don't need to. I can remove the page icon. Open pages and side peek. That's just a preference. Show calendar as week because I want to focus on what's coming up this week. Properties, I want to show what course this belongs to and then what kind of thing it is. then I will rearrange this. So over here, this one can go here, and then these core database pages I'll put to the side here. And one thing, and I've seen this used a lot, but I think it's a very tidy solution, is you can use callouts to segment different information. So they're kind of like little sections, but they're visually distinct from other sections. So, wait, what have I done here? Have I? No, I haven't. Okay. And for now, I will just call this databases. And I can set, let's leave it blue. I can set icons for each of these so they're a bit easier to scan on the page. And this would be then what was I doing here? Yes, so I was saying it can be a pain to have to create a new thing every time. So either I can what's the best way of doing this? So say that I already know what lectures I have coming up. I can create templates for each of those courses. So let's create a template for CS126, have it automatically for the lecture. Let's have it automatically be tagged as a lecture and automatically assigned to this course. Similarly, I can do one for seminar. Tag it as seminar. So now on any particular day, I can go into new and then select the thing that I want to create. So like on new lecture, it will automatically create it for me, assign the tag, assign the course. That's one way of doing that. Another thing I can do is, and I said it before and then I got completely distracted, buttons. So buttons within Notion are very, very helpful. They allow you to perform a couple of different actions back to back just off of the push of a single button. So what I want to do here is I want to say a new CS126 lecture. So when I click this button, I want to add a page to timetable as either I can select it as the template or I can just set it as empty, set the tag to be lecture and set the course to be CS126. And then, and this is why I prefer using buttons over doing it through the templates here, is you can go to add another step and then open that page. Just fully open that page, so you then don't even need to like if it pops up in like center peak, you don't need to make it full screen. If you're just looking at it in the timetable here, you don't need to click it and open it. If you click this button, it will just automatically create it and open it for you. So let's see how that works. It's missing a target. New page added. So open the page that we've just added in full page. So if I click there, it will create the page and open it in full. So I have here an empty page just ready to go, ready for notes, with the date automatically assigned. So then what you could do is you could create buttons for each thing that you want to be able to create quickly. So within a term, you're not going to have more than, I'm not sure, like 4 or 5 maybe courses. So it's not as if you would be overflowing with buttons, but they are a very quick way to be able to add stuff to your Notion workspace quickly. Another thing you can do now that we have and I'm going to rename this from timetable actually, just because that is confusing me a little bit. Let's call this notes, and then have a little icon. Go on then. Notes. Then rename to notes. So then in your calendar, like we did before, where we can have assessments, you'll be able to add. No, you won't, Amy. Okay, so what you have to do is do you remember how before we made this a linked database? So rather than creating a new page and then adding stuff there, we created a linked view of a database. So this itself isn't the database that Notion Calendar is trying to reference, it's just a view of it. So this is pulling information in from the main notes database, but it's not actually affecting it. So what I'll need to do instead is I'll need to go into the master notes database and create a new calendar view here. And then from here, I'll be able to open it in calendar. So here you can see now I have notes, and I kind of listed within calendar alongside the assessments are in here too. So in one view, I'll be able to get the notes that I've taken on the dates that I had taken them, and then the upcoming deadlines and things like that. One thing that's annoying me here is that I'm not even sure how you'd change this. Is that the cards are really small, so they're quite hard to click. So let's see if I can figure this out. At the date they're created, it's just a single time. And you can't really change this, you can't edit this because it's automatically created. Likewise in the calendar, I'm trying to see if there's a way that I can make this automatically know that the lecture was an hour long, so that if the notes started at 6:03, it would say that I was in there until 7:03. And I'm going to give this a go using formulas. So I covered them a little bit previously in like a different video, but formulas are a way to take information from one property in your Notion database and turn it into something else. So here, if I have the formula for end date, and I'm just taking just double check. Start date, end date. Start date. Date add. I can do hours. Okay, so date add. 1 hours. Okay, so that's given me 2 dates. So if I'm able to, in this calendar view, maybe this is one for another. Oh no, what I can do maybe, show timeline by separate start and end dates. An end date. Because what I'm trying to do here, and maybe this is me just getting a bit too smart with it, is in the maybe not. Okay, I am trying to be too clever with this. Let's try again. So what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to say, okay, this event, even though I started it here, it ended here. So in the calendar view, it should spread over an hour. So the block should be like this big, rather than the little line it was before. So let's try again. Opening calendar. No, it's still doing it. Okay. Maybe one for me to go away and think about. But yeah. Either way, we have both the upcoming assessments and the notes in the same calendar view, which is what I wanted to do originally. I'll think about this. And then I've also covered how, if I wanted to automatically add stuff in, I would use the button here. If I wanted to add in lecture notes ahead of time, so in calendar you can have recurring events, and as far as I'm aware, in Notion the recurring events are a little bit fiddlier. Let's give it a go now. So let's say in notes I wanted to every Tuesday at 10 to 11 CS, just notes. It won't let me set this as recurring, but then in Notion it has created a thing. Okay. So I guess if it was realistically, if it was me, I would be going through, once I have my timetable, I would be going through and creating these sort of slots manually. Ah, that is a shame. Okay. But I'm getting lost in the reads. But you can see. Why has it done that? Oh, okay. So it's getting confused because I've set this to be the date created, whereas if this was just, as handy as it would be to have it be created automatically on the maybe calendar date. Created time. Let's try refreshing this again. So in notes, calendar date, and let's just say I had the seminar. Then set this to calendar, show as week. And then let's just for now randomly put these on. Open in calendar. Okay, so they are all here, but then I suppose what I can do is I can say, okay, so I was here between 9 and 10. I really am getting in the reeds of it now. For the sake of example. Okay. I'd love to be able to see the properties, but that's a wish list. Let's at least do this. So it matches here. Okay, so I can at least see I can at least see which lectures I have coming up on which days. And then I'll be able to quickly add new lectures and then select the date that they were on. Oh gosh, yeah, this is the thing as well, because I'm doing this hypothetically, I'm not entirely sure how I would use this. So, bit of context, at the moment when I'm using Notion Calendar, I use it on a day basis, so I've not really had to deal with hours before. So this is me getting completely distracted and noodling through that. But, oh god. Regardless, in the calendar now I have the schedule. And I suppose it would just be a case of manually sorting stuff. What else was I going to cover? Oh yeah, within a particular course. So let's create a template for this. So for a particular course, it would be helpful, because you can see the summary of like the assessments. It would be helpful to see the list of all of the previous notes you'd taken for that course. So we can do that here again with linked databases and view the notes we've taken. Hide. And then rename this to notes. Then what we could do, and this will be down to personal taste, so I'm just gonna do it to mine. You can say show a list of all the notes I'd taken. Show me the date I took them on. I'll come back to this. And then group by, so I would want to separate my lecture notes from my seminar notes, and then I would want to sort by the date, ascending, so they're in order from the most, like lecture 1, lecture 2, lecture 3. And filter where the course is, whatever the course is for this template. I'll show you what that means now. So here in the CS126 that we made originally, if I applied that course template to this, it should just filter by this course. Let's make a new assessment just as like a test. Then in courses. No, I'm losing my mind. I made it in assessments, not tests. Ah, okay. Okay. Let's make another one here. And it's not going to be on course 126. Course open. And you can't see it in here. So over time, this would be a space where I can see all of the deadlines I have coming up for this particular course. I'd be able to see all of the notes I'd ever taken. Each one of these I could open, have full access to. I'm really trying to remember back how I would use my own notes as well. But I think it's important, and I did want to do this thought exercise and kind of drill into it, because I feel like when you first see Notion and you're like, oh, okay, I'm going to go download some templates, play with some templates. A lot of the templates I've seen focus on aesthetic first, which, I mean, they look amazing. Templates do look amazing. There are some really, really good looking ones out there. But at the end of it, if you don't understand how your courses have been structured, I assume every university is different. Or if you're at an American university versus an English university, it's structured differently. So you could download a template that just does not work for you. Whereas at least if you're taking it from base principles and building up, like, you will get something that initially maybe doesn't look as nice, but you understand how it works. Like, you understand how you've gotten to that point, where you would need to change it to make it work better. And it's not to say that you can't then make this look nice. Like, not sure. See, you can do things like change the colors of things. Notion has a lot of default styling options for different things, and once you start putting stuff in callouts, you can, like, callouts, whatever they're called, you can start changing up the colors of them. I quite like the neutral one, actually. You can add in images, like it's got a link to Giphy, and then if you put in, I don't know, you can put in your own stickers and bring a bit of life into your template. But it's by understanding how you've put it together. It's like, I suppose it's kind of like having a box of Legos and making your own Lego house versus buying one of those kits that kind of walks you through. You know, both have their own uses, but if you want something that you're actually going to use, sometimes it's helpful to make it from the ground up. And I've been here for an hour, and this is how far I've gotten. And this is with me getting distracted, fumbling around, only half remembering stuff. Let me see, what else did I want to cover? I did make some notes. Let's do a bit of calculation as well. So let's say, because I avoided this earlier, that I wanted to be able to calculate my average grade here. So I can say, let's start by giving myself some fake grades, just so I have some, that's optimistic, some numbers I can play around with. So if we were to calculate the average over all of these, this wouldn't be accurate because you'd have to weight each of these. This is something I should have revised, is weighted grades. Give me a second. I really can't remember how this all worked. So we had no, I'm not going to be able to do this reliably. No, I'll come back to this. Yeah, I can't think of this off the top of my head. What was the other thing I wanted to cover? Oh, within so as what am I doing? So as part of being a student, I remember it wasn't just about, you know, keeping notes. Like I had a bunch of bookmarks for internal pages. So we had a, what would you even call it? Like an assessment portal, I guess, where you could go and see your results, but it was on its own dashboard. So rather than copy pasting it all into Notion, sometimes it's helpful to just use what's already there. So you can do that with links and stuff. And of course I can't access those portals, but let's say I found this earlier, like a map of the university. Like absolutely essential if you're coming somewhere for the first time to know where all the different buildings are. So I can copy this. And then not that one. In here, then create another call out for just like campus map, highlight it, add a link to web page. So you start to build up your own little bookmarks, but they're within the context of all the other information you'll need. What else? Oh, I'm really annoyed that I can't get the weighted assessment thing. Not the end of the world, it's fine. I think another thing that's helpful is within the courses to be able to have a page for, like a home page for each course. Let's build that out a little bit. So this isn't very attractive, it's not very helpful. So let's hide this for now. I also want to hide those backlinks. Notes is fine. And what I will do actually is I will edit the master template. And I will keep it aesthetically similar to what I had on the other pages because I know it's my taste. Oops. And then we'll create a new view here. And properties show the date. Remembering to filter out my course is equal to this one. I suppose for the template you would just put little markers. So if I went back to, and this is another thing I really like, is that if you're doing things on a template basis, so like I've just changed a lot of the stuff in here, but it hasn't applied the change down. But what I can do, because this is all just connected information, I've not typed anything myself here, I can not delete that way, delete this way, and apply the template again. And it will just refresh it with all of the correct filters applied. One more thing, because I can feel that I'm running out of steam on this. It was an ambitious project, but the aim was to just give it a go. Just hopefully to encourage you to try and build your own before you go looking at all the other beautiful templates that are available. It's okay to just try it yourself. It's not scary, like it's easy to undo things, it's easy to redo things. It's also fine to start with a template that exists, but I find that you will spend a lot more time unpicking things. So one more thing I wanted to do. Oh, I completely forgot. Yes, okay, on assessments. So this date is fine, but it's not, it could be more helpful. So we know that these are fixed dates and we know what day it is today. So maybe we can create a formula that will tell us how many days away this is. So let's try that by creating a formula. Days until. And then what we need is we need the date. And then it'll be one of these. Date between. So date between now, which is a formula itself. This formula pulls in the date now. If I can, yeah, the current date. And then in days. So this should give us the number of days between today and the deadline. I've put them in the wrong way around, but that's an easy fix. So then the number on its own isn't too helpful. So let's change the formula to have How would you even phrase that? Days to go? Oh. There we go, 16 days to go. That will do. Then, on the dashboard, under or next to notes, let's create another linked view. There's one thing you'll know if you've watched other seminars of mine or like other tutorials and things. I use linked database views a lot. I just think they're very, very handy. Means you only have to do something once and then use it everywhere else. But then it also means my master databases are normally a mess, but the less said about that, the better. But then you have your list of upcoming deadlines. Don't need the icon, don't need the page title. We'll keep with the Apple theme. And you can just show days until and sort by date ascending. If you really want to, you could show course. And add it in this little layout. You could also put it under here. To save room there, you could group it by course. And then hide course here. Okay, we're getting somewhere. So you'd be able to see which things are coming up. You'd be able to jump into them quickly from here. You'd be able to see and add new lecture notes. So let's just say, open your laptop, open Notion. I'm in this lecture right now. Click. And then type. All of these notes are kept in one place and you can sort them however you want, filter them, find them. When it comes to your assessments and things. Another thing you can do is, I'm trying to think of what the best way of doing this would be. Within, let's say within a single, within a single one here, you can reference other pages and you don't have to bring in the whole database here. So you could say a relevant page for what were they called? What did I call them? Lab session. Okay. Lab session. And then you can tag the page in here so that in context it's easy to jump to. You can see it here in the backlink automatically. Or you can say, I learned about this on October 1st. And you can jump between different relevant things. Yeah. I don't really know how to tie this one off, to be fair. I've kind of walked through how I would begin to think about setting up my own student dashboard if I was about to start a new year at university. rather than trying to find my own, or trying to find a template online that suited my exact needs, to be able to think about how I would make it for me. One more thing. Call out in here. I think there's a couple of other things I would want to do to tidy this up, but then I'm going to make this as a just an available template that you can download. I know I just said like, oh, don't download other people's templates and base things off of that, but you absolutely can. If the way I've structured this here makes sense to you and makes sense for how you see your year going, then feel free to download this and play around with it. This was very quickly slapped together. Like, you've been here assumedly, or you've been here from the blank screen. I will always try and start these with a blank screen and end it with something that looks a little bit meatier, because I want to be able to show people how how possible things are once you understand the concepts and you see someone else using them. I think it's always been intimidating to me to see all of these perfectly organized, beautifully laid out Notion templates, but they don't really show you how to get there. So that's kind of what these live streams are going to be about. They're a bit rambly, they're a bit all over the place, but that's kind of the joy of using this tool, is that you can change it and change your thinking as you're building it. And I just want to share more of that. You know, it's okay to just learn. If you have any questions, like, I leave all of my contact details everywhere. Like, this YouTube channel's got my domain, like my website, all over it. You can find me anywhere, basically. And I'm always happy to answer questions, do demos. Like, if you have a particular topic you want to see me build up, maybe if you want to see me, like, I don't know, cover something a bit more complicated, I'll have a bit more time to prepare. Maybe I can come back and figure out how weighted grades work, come up with some more formulas for that. But yeah, this has been good, this has been nice, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.